Alright, hello everybody. Happy Wednesday evening. We are now beginning to enter our winter storm threat as it will be entering the region over the next several hours, bringing a messy commute, especially for those traveling overnight and tomorrow morning across much of central, northern, and eastern Pennsylvania. We're going to have significant icing, sleet, and even some snow to contend with. So looking at our current watches and warnings and looking at some of the counties and interstates I overlaid to show you where some of these interstates are in respect to the warnings. So this maroon purplish color, this darker purple color across south central PA, that is an ice storm warning. This is where the National Weather Service thinks there's going to be a significant ice storm of greater than a quarter-inch of ice expected, possibly up to a half-inch. So those are those dark purple colored counties. And all these other light purple counties, so this includes basically all of PA but Greene County and portions of Fayette County, they are not under this alert, but everywhere else in this purple color, that is a winter weather advisory. That means there's going to be a risk for at least some snow, sleet, or ice that could likely impact your travel plans over the next 12 hours. So with the interstates overlaid, basically all major highways in the state will be seeing some impacts. There are tier 2 and tier 4 restrictions. I can't name them all at once. I did post an update earlier this afternoon regarding all those tier restrictions, but basically most highways are not allowing anyone but passenger vehicles. So passenger vehicles are allowed, but anyone else is basically banned from interstates, at least through tomorrow afternoon, especially with this icing. You probably don't want to be seeing tractor trailers and all those sorts of larger vehicles on the highways just because it's more dangerous. But again, I-70, I-76, I-80, I-90, I-81, the Turnpike, I-476, I-81, there's going to be all the major highways that will be impacted by the storm. So again, please try to not travel anywhere from late tonight through around noon tomorrow, especially if you're in these impacted areas. And if you're in an ice storm warning, you probably should stay home tomorrow at all times, just because the temperatures will take a little bit of a while to warm up. And you're going to see, especially in those ice storm warning areas, you're going to see potential trees coming down, branches, limbs. So your power outage risk is a lot higher in some areas. Some roads could get shut down because of falling trees and limbs. So it's just going to be a pretty serious situation. Now let's jump over to our future radar. So the time is in the top central corner. So we're going to see, I'm going to actually switch the model to another model because I think this model is a little bit too warm given our latest setup. So let's get to load. All right, so time is in the top central corner, top center corner. So around 9 o'clock, the radar will begin to get a little bit busy. I'm just waiting for this to load. It's still loading. Sorry for the wait. But by 9 to 10 o'clock, we will start to see some precipitation build into portions of south central PA. This pink color is sleet. The darker, so the lighter like whitish pink, that's sleet. The darker purples and pinks, that's freezing rain, and the blues obviously snow, and rain's green. So this storm has slowed down a little bit, so that is why the onset of the timing has been kind of shifting further into the night, but still major impacts are expected across much of the state. So by 10 o'clock, you're going to see some precipitation begin to into south central PA, and by midnight, much of southwest PA will begin to see that freezing rain and sleet. Keep in mind, this radar is just a simulation. It's not one-to-one. I think this is a little bit too dry. By midnight, much of southwest PA will be getting into that sleet and freezing rain mix. Altoona, Hollidaysburg, Greenville, Newcastle, Catania, and you're starting into that sleet mix by midnight. Moving forward in time, you can see how the precipitation really fills in fast by 2 a.m. Freezing rain occurring across much of western PA. Again, much of the I-79 corridor, all from Erie down to Washington, PA. You're going to be very icy. If you're traveling at 2 a.m. tonight, you might just want to cancel those travel plans. It's going to be very dangerous. Again, heavy freezing rain falling across much of southwest and western PA. Sleet and snow occurring across much of central PA, so it's going to get a little bit of those roads really messy. Moving forward in time again, the storm really expands by 4 a.m., starting to get that closer to the morning commute. By 4 a.m., Pittsburgh, you're starting to change over to that rain. Like I mentioned yesterday, let me show you guys a quick representation of why this ice is going to be centered to mostly the northern and central and eastern areas as opposed to the Pittsburgh area. It's because if you can envision, you're going to have your mountains right around here. Your mountains are like right around here. So with the setup, you have a high pressure system up to the northeast in, let's say, New York, and you have your low pressure all the way west of Ohio. So that low pressure is bringing a lot of warm air, and as we get that warm air to rise over, that is why we're changing. That's why you're not seeing snow even though your temperatures are above or below 32. So that's why you're not seeing a big snow events, because you have a lot of warmer air about 5,000 to 10,000 feet above the ground that's actually warming above freezing because of that low pressure center all the way to the west, well west of the region, pumping in all that warm air. However, at the surface, especially east of the Appalachian Mountains, you get this effect called cold air damming, and you get this high pressure system bringing in a lot of cold air from the northeast. You're going to see a lot of northerly, northeasterly winds, and that essentially locks in that cold air at the surface. So even though 5,000 to 10,000 feet above the ground, your temperatures could be as high as 40 degrees Fahrenheit, down at the surface, just because it takes a little bit longer to get that cold air to get moved out, you're going to be seeing temperatures well below freezing for an extended period of time, and that is why we have much of central and northern and eastern PA at this heightened risk of the icing and sleet risk, just because of this thing called cold air damming. Again, basically the mountains, right along the spine of the mountains, they act like as a dam, basically blocking in the cold air from really moving. It takes a lot longer. Most models overdo how warm it gets, so even though I'm showing this model, it might be even a little bit colder than expected just because models don't do well with that cold air damming. Again, back to the forecast. By 4 a.m., freezing rain continuing across much of northwest PA, Erie, Meadville, Oil City, down to the lower highlands, Evansburg, Johnstown, Indiana, Altoona. Freezing rain and sleet occurring by 6 a.m. This is when we're starting to get into that morning commute. Again, freezing rain occurring across much of the state, sleet occurring across much of eastern PA, and look at that, even a period of snow possible for northeast PA. That's where you can get a quick thump of maybe an inch or two of snow before changing over to sleet. But again, by 6 a.m., most school districts, I suppose, I know people have been asking, will my school close, will my school delay? I think probably tomorrow just close the districts just because, again, this ice threat could linger well into the morning hours, making a 2-hour delay really not useful. So by 7, again, freezing rain, sleet occurring much of central and eastern PA. State College zone at St. Mary's, Williamsburg, DuBois, Altoona, Harrisburg, Lancaster, York, Reading, Allentown, Scranton, Philly. You're still seeing that freezing rain by 7 a.m. So again, very hazardous morning commute expected. You want to be off of the roadways. Try to stay off the roadways during the morning commute if you can. I know you have jobs to get to, but hopefully there's some kind of plan, because this is not just a typical snow event where you can, when it snows, you probably, if you drive safe, you can probably get to your destination without losing control. But when you're dealing with sleet and ice, you're going to lose control, especially the best of drivers. You can still lose control. So this is a different story, different animal to play with than just a snow event. This is ice and sleet, very bad for driving. Again, by 9 o'clock, still sleet and freezing rain across much of northern and central PA, continuing and continuing. We really don't see this freezing rain threat even by 11 a.m. Still, much of central and eastern PA, you're doing that freezing rain. Again, like I said earlier, models don't do well on how quick we warm up. So this freezing rain threat, as we continue with newer model guidance, as we get closer to the event, I'm thinking this gets extended even more than originally thought, just because models aren't resolving that cold air damming situation too well. But again, freezing rain still continues across much of northern and eastern Pennsylvania. And still, by 1 o'clock, even though most areas will begin to either shut off of precipitation, still, many areas, especially in those pink areas, still freezing rain continues as late as 1 o'clock. And if you move further, basically some areas could see, it's very possible some areas could not even get above 32 now by tomorrow mid-afternoon. So it is something to keep an eye on, especially as we head into those afternoon hours. Originally, I thought that there's going to be a big warm-up. I mean, I was still colder than most. Some models had up to 60 today. That's clearly not, well, tomorrow, up to 60 tomorrow. That's clearly not happening anymore. And just because they're not doing well with the cold air damming setup. And then as we move again into the evening, still pockets of freezing drizzle could occur across northern northeastern PA, but the only really good areas I see recovering well in the afternoon is probably across much of western PA. That's where you're going to get less of the cold air, maybe across southern PA, but otherwise, most other areas you might want to just probably be cautious if you're going to head out late afternoon, but maybe tomorrow might just be a good day to just stay indoors, just because many roadways will still remain icy as we head into those afternoon and evening hours, and it's possible this could still be warming up too quick, and it's possible to see most areas stay at or around 32 well past the storm ending. And also keep in mind, just because this, even if your air temperature gets above 32 sometime tomorrow, surfaces may lag behind by 1 to 3 hours, so keep that in mind, especially sidewalks and bridges and untreated roadways. They'll take a lot longer to warm up. So let's just play through this again without all the talking. So this is by this evening, by 2 a.m., 4 a.m., 6 a.m., 7, 8, 10 a.m., 11, and then to the afternoon. So just playing through it again. Just stay off the roadways if possible tomorrow. It's going to be a pretty dire situation. Freezing rain will continue into possibly the early afternoon hours across portions of the state. So most roadways will be pretty hazardous. Again, sleet, snow, freezing rain, not a good combination when you get all three. Roads will be a mess. You don't want to be on the roads tomorrow morning. So with all that said, let's jump to my predicted snowfall and ice maps. So again, no changes to this ice map really. I really haven't been adjusting it much over the last 24 hours, which is a good sign. But again, the greatest icing will be across much of central PA, where there's greater than 1/10 of an inch. Throughout the week, I've lowered amounts across northeast PA. That's because you're getting more of a sleet and snow versus a fully freezing rain. So still very major travel impacts either way. Just because you're seeing less ice doesn't mean you're seeing less sleet or snow. You're seeing more of that, still very dangerous, especially across the lower highlands, where you could see 1/4 inch or more, potentially up to even 1/2 inch of ice. That is where you're going to see power outages, impossible travel conditions. Just you don't want to be on the roads at all throughout the day tomorrow, especially across the lower highlands. In western PA, even though you'll see some icing, most conditions will begin to improve by mid to late morning on Thursday, as temperatures warm well into the 40s and possibly some areas could even hit 50 across southwest PA, but for the rest of the state, you're not hitting 50 tomorrow. That is just the deal. But again, it only takes a trace of ice to really cause major problems, and when you're talking about 1/10 of an inch or greater, that's when you get more major impacts, and especially 1/4 inch or greater, you're going to see significant impacts, especially getting power outages and just impossible travel conditions. In terms of snow and sleet, again, this is snow and sleet. So again, about 1 inch or 2 of snow and sleet expected across much of northern and central PA. Again, farther north and northeast, you might get a little bit closer to 2, maybe 3 inches of snow and sleet combined, especially where you can get a quicker thump of snow. But otherwise, this is not a really big snow event. Again, most of this will be as sleet, but again, this is mostly a freezing rain, sleet, and some snow event. But otherwise, major travel impacts are expected across, again, much of the state under some sort of winter weather alert. Most highways will be impacted, so if you're planning to travel tomorrow, don't. But if you have to, take it slow, take it easy, leave maybe even an hour earlier than you normally leave, just because roads might be a complete disaster tomorrow morning. I know they've been pre-treating, but with freezing rain, some of that could get washed off and then refreeze, so it's going to be really messy, especially all back roads. Most roads might be even impossible to travel on at times tomorrow, so just stay off the roads if possible. But if you do, leave an hour earlier, half hour to an hour earlier, increase travel distance between cars, and just take it really slow and easy. Don't be speeding, don't be making dumb decisions, because I'm sure there's going to be people out there doing that, and that's why we're going to have wrecks and stuff. But again, we really won't see conditions improve until after 2 o'clock. Across central and eastern PA, western PA, by noon, most roads should be on the okay side. So thank you for joining me this evening. If you have any questions, feel free to send me your questions. I'll try to answer as much as possible. I've been getting bombarded with questions. I've been trying to get as much as possible answered. And then we have another storm Saturday and Sunday, and another storm Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. So active pattern continues. Get ready. We have a lot of winter still ahead of us. But thank you for joining me this evening, and stay safe and stay tuned.